Hello, happy people, and welcome to your Moment of Zed, the YouTube channel dedicated to the most beautiful car in the world, the BMW Z3, or as the folks in Auckland, New Zealand call it, the Z3. I'm Mark, and today I wanted to talk about a problem I had 2 videos ago. I showed you how to patch a tire, but what you didn't see was how tough it was to get the wheel off. I did the driver's side rear wheel, and the wheel bolts were stuck, and the wheel itself was stuck to the hub due to corrosion, and that was because I had never rotated the Z3's tires, and there's a reason behind that. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I just wanted to go through the steps I did to get the wheel off finally, which was not easy, and something you really couldn't do on the side of the road if you had an actual flat. But before I do all that, I have 4 Zeds of the week, 3 that belong to one very lucky guy, so let's go. First up, we have Murray from New Zealand, a self-described Z3 addict who has no less than 3 Z3s in awesome colors. First, a 2003-liter automatic with 42,000 miles in Sienna Red. Now, he's had 7 problem-free years with this gorgeous car. Next, a 2002-liter 5-speed in Mora Red, very unusual color, the only one in New Zealand. It has 121,000 miles. He's had it for 6 years, and in that time he has redone the suspension completely and put in a new clutch. And finally, from Murray, in 1998, 2.8-liter automatic in Palmetto Green, very unusual color as well. With only 38,000 miles, he's had it for 1 year and has had no major maintenance problems. We travel now from New Zealand all the way to Peru, Indiana that is, and we have Randy with his 2000 2.5-liter 5-speed with 160,000 miles, also in that beautiful Sienna Red. Now, the mods he's done, he has a 3-inch blue tip exhaust. He put on a rear wing that he found on eBay, halo lights, custom front LED markers, and an Alpine Bluetooth stereo. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your beautiful and colorful cars. Imagine a world where cars came in different colors. If you'd like to see your car on Zed of the Week, please follow the very easy instructions in the description. Now let's go ahead and deal with wheels. So maybe you're wondering why I haven't rotated my tires ever. Few reasons. Number one, the owner's manual recommends that you don't. And I haven't. And there's a reason behind that. It's the big difference in camber between the front and the rear. As you can see, the rear has a big negative camber. And that's set up on purpose that way by BMW. But what it means is if you don't rotate the tires front to rear every 3,000 miles that they kind of recommend you can do, then you really shouldn't, because just the wear difference, it's not going to work right according to BMW. Now, there may be other reasons you don't rotate your tires, especially front to rear. You may have different sizes in the front and rear. Many of you do, which means you definitely don't want to do that. And also, as far as rotation side to side, many of you probably have unidirectional tires, so they rotate one way. They have an arrow on the side telling you that, so you're not even going to rotate side to side. So for that reason, at least on my car, my wheels are stuck, and I know they are, and this one isn't because I broke it away 2 weeks ago or a month ago for that video. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how to break away the stuck wheel. I'm sure the one on the rear on this car is also stuck, the other side, the passenger side. So we're going to go ahead and go through that right now. Hello, quick change of clothes, quick change of venue. This is not a video about the suspension setup on the Z3, but that's kind of the reason that I, and maybe you, have this problem of stuck wheels. Just want to make one last mention about the negative camber on the back. Well, a couple really. It does wear the inside of your tires out much more quickly than the outside of your tires, so keep an eye on that. But also, it's not easily changeable, but it's changeable. There's some shim kits that are made, and it can be done. It's probably not something a a home mechanic, a DIY guy like me is going to be able to do. But the solution does exist for this negative camber, and I've linked a video in the description about that, so take a look if that interests you. So first things first, how do I know the wheel bolts are stuck? Let's go ahead and take a look. I'm not even going to bother with the wrench that comes with the tool kit because it's really not very thick or very strong. I mean, it does its job when your wheel bolts are the way they should be, but I know mine are not. So I'm going to go right after it with a 1/2-inch drive ratchet and actually an impact socket, and I'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm putting about as much force to this right now as I can. I'm not the young 50-year-old I used to be. And next thing's next, I'm putting, of course, all my weight on it. As you can tell, I know you're not supposed to do this, and I know we've all done it, and it's still not working. Now, I know you're going to scream on this one, why don't I have a steel pipe, PVC? I'm going to kill myself. Believe it or not, I've done this many times, don't have a steel pipe handy, and it does work. Definitely stuck. Next step I do, hit it with penetrating oil. I use PB Blaster, and there's a lot of different things you could use, WD-40, Croyle, there's a whole bunch, and people swear by one or the other. I think PB Blaster works great, and it's a hometown company from my birthplace, Cleveland, Ohio, family company, so I like to support them, and like I said, it works really well. So I'm going to hit all these lug bolts or wheel bolts with the penetrating oil a couple of times, let it sit for a while, and then we'll get back to it. One thing I would say about the penetrating oil on our cars is since we have lug bolts or wheel bolts and not lug nuts, you're probably going to get less penetration. I'd still do this step. It's always a good idea for stuck bolts. But again, if we had regular lug nuts, they would probably work a lot better. You'd probably get a lot better penetration into the actual threads. So the next step, and none of this is really rocket science if you've worked on your own car before, but the next step is go at it with an impact wrench if you have one. Now I have an impact wrench, a pneumatic one, kind of the old school. This is a kind of a cheapy Husky kit from Home Depot. And the reason I bought it is I already had an air compressor that I bought for various other reasons, tire inflation, other stuff. And this works, although I think an electric would work better. That's what most people use nowadays. But the only issue I have with this is a great compressor. It's a 6-gallon pancake compressor, Craftsman. Bought it off Amazon, link in the description if you need a compressor. The only issue with this compressor and impact tools is it doesn't really have enough air to keep them sustained over a long amount of time if the bolt's really stuck. That's the problem I ran into on the other wheel I already did. But the next logical step is to hit it with this, and we'll see if it works this time. Maybe it will. So here we go with the impact. And that's the problem we end up having. It doesn't get this off immediately because it's so darn stuck. And then the compressor has to catch up with all the air it's lost, and it gets a weakened drive to it. So I'm going to do all of these that way just to kind of, start breaking up that, that bond. But I don't think this is going to end up working. Again, maybe if you have a better impact set, bigger compressor, or an electric, it would work for you. So again, let's say you don't have an impact wrench of any kind like I do, or like mine, yours didn't work. We're going to have to go after it manually. So I've got, again, my 1/2-inch ratchet, and I have that same impact socket again. And as you can see, I've tried to put my full weight on this. I've tried to step on this, Next step is a lever. Again, a metal pipe would work better, or a breaker bar, which is a pretty inexpensive item, a 1/2-inch breaker bar, so you'd have more leverage. But I've gone after these actually for a while off camera, and although this PVC pipe actually resists a lot of pressure, it's just not getting it. So the next step I use is kind of an old mechanics trick, and that is to go ahead and switch your socket or your ratchet to tightening, and go ahead and tighten the actual lug nut if you can. Now what tightening does, the idea is you're going to break that corrosion loose the opposite way, but once it's broke loose, then you can go ahead and undo it. That's all we're trying to do, is break that connection between the hub and the bolt. And once you do that by tightening, then we should be able to go ahead, switch back, and take it off by loosening. And lo and behold, there we go on the first take. So that one's now loose. Voila, easy as that. Not real easy. Hi, I know you missed my beautiful face. So the tightening trick worked. All the wheel bolts are nice and loose. And now it's just time to get the car up in the air and work on the second half of this equation, which is the fact that I know the aluminum alloy wheel is going to be corroded onto the steel hub. Has to do with the dissimilar metals and the amount of time they've been together. So we're going to go ahead and get to the second part of this job. So I have the car up on jack stands for safety. Now I'll have to admit that on the other side, when I did this a few weeks ago, I just had it up in the regular jack. I wouldn't recommend that. Again, do all this stuff I'm doing in your garage the safest way possible, and let's get these wheels broken away without a problem. We won't have to worry about it on the side of the road someday. So even with all the wheel bolts out, this is frozen. This isn't coming out. It's in the air. There's really no movement. And what we need is a little shock of force against the bottom. If you take a hammer to this and you hit the rubber, it's going to bounce back on you. If you take a rubber hammer and take it to the wheel, it's going to bounce back on you. So I would take something that is hefty, but if you hit the edge of your alloy wheel, it won't damage it. And a piece of wood, a nice chunky piece of wood. This is a piece of firewood I happen to have. 4x4 would work as well, but a nice chunky piece of wood. And what you want to do is hit right about here in the edge of the tire and the wheel with enough force, enough heft to kind of break that corrosion between the hub and the wheel. And I'm just going to go ahead and give it a shot. And there you go. 2 hits. Comes right off, and we're good to go. And you can see that corrosion there. We're just going to go ahead and clean that up. I'm going to hit that with some penetrant. I'm going to clean all this up. I'm going to put penetrant in all the wheel bolt holes, and I'm going to go ahead and torque it down. Okay, so I got the wheel bolts back and I got them snug. Went ahead and lowered the car, got it off the jack stands, and now I'm going to go ahead and torque the wheel bolts. Owner's manual says 72 foot-pounds. That apparently, as I've researched, has been updated by BMW, and they want you to go 88 foot-pounds. So we're just going to go ahead and get that going. Star pattern. Take them all up to about 80. And then we'll get them that last little bit, again, using that star pattern. And don't forget, after you go about 30 miles, double check them again. So there you have it, folks. Nothing too complex. If you have the right tools, as always, that makes your life a lot easier. If you don't, be careful whenever you're trying to break away stuck bolts. It'd be difficult to do, but you could probably break a wheel bolt inside the hub, and that's going to take a fairly simple job and make it into a disaster. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, as always, please crush that like button. And until next time, remember, friends don't let friends drive boring.